10 years now. We've known each other since we were kids, and we started dating in high school. We got married very early. It was relatively impulsive, but before I knew the truth about her, I was fine with it. I had no regrets. I only have regrets now that I know everything that she's done. I think that most of our relationship has been okay before everything lost control. I mean, we had known each other our entire lives, and because of that, we barely had major misunderstandings anymore. We had learned about each other to a notable extent, and that was part of the reason why I even proposed that we start dating back when we did. I'm a big fan of your partner being someone who could pass as your best friend. She felt like that back then, and even deep into our marriage, she still felt like that. It's why it hurts so bad that she betrayed me. What makes it worse is how she betrayed me, especially because she wasn't the only one who did me dirty. To understand everything, you need to know a little bit of context about our marriage. We were both raised very religious, which probably contributed to why we got married at such a young age. While the intensity of my faith decreased, Addison pretty much left religion behind entirely. It didn't feel great at first, but I loved her for who she was, and I accepted her decision. It really didn't cause as much friction as you'd expect at the end of the day. That was probably true even more so because I wasn't as devout as I used to be. Because of our religious roots, we were good children. We didn't sleep around or have fun during our younger years, especially during college, where there were so many chances for that to happen. Once Addison became irreligious, she would suggest that we try wilder things in the bedroom, and for the most part, that wasn't a problem. Sure, some things were freaky, for lack of a better word, but they were between a husband and his wife, so it wasn't that big of a deal to me. We tried a lot of things out. However, I had to shoot her down entirely on a few occasions, like when she suggested that we try a threesome, and of course, she wanted it to be with another man. I told her that was never going to happen, and I'm glad she didn't push more than that. However, on another time, when we went on a cruise, she said she met a couple who were swingers, and that we could try to have some fun with them. I shot that down too, and I made sure to keep a close eye on her for the rest of the cruise. It sort of ruined the mood for me because I feel like intimacy can be perfect and as exciting as you want it to be without having to bring in a third party. After that cruise, I decided to have a serious talk with her to see the kind of things that she'd be open to trying out in the bedroom, especially the things that she really wanted to give a shot. However, I said I only wanted to hear things that could be done with the two of us. I made it clear on that day that I had no interest in trying things out with anyone else. She was the only woman I had been with in that way, and there was really no point in me wanting more. However, even though she didn't say it, I just felt like that wasn't the case for her. It seemed like she wanted to try out other people, and that was something that I refused to compromise on. Anyway, after that point, things seemed to be fine. We continued to sleep together and we tried all sorts of new things. Some went fantastic, others were disasters, but in the end, we were spicing things up, and that started to make me feel safe, because she was really enjoying it. I don't know whether she was the sole trigger for everything going wrong, but things took a really bad turn the moment my sister came to crash with us for a few days. She was always the black sheep of the family. Even during the days when we were intensely religious, she declared herself to be an atheist. That was straight from our teenage days. She got piercings before she left my parents' house. She got a tattoo as soon as she left their house. I won't say that her life is absolutely horrible, but she has certainly made some poor decisions here and there. And because of that, she's not where she should be at this point in her life. This is my older sister we're talking about. I still love her despite it all, and she's an incredibly fun person to be around, if not too fun. But yeah, when she said that she wanted to come and crash at our place for a few days, I asked my wife and she was fine with it. So we went ahead and got things ready. The real problem started when she came over. It's not like she was a bad house guest, because she was far from that. Our parents had raised us with proper manners, and even though she had been rebellious, it doesn't mean that she chewed with her mouth open or that she drank straight from the milk carton. The problem was that she and my wife were talking way too much. They had always gotten along, but considering that they hadn't seen each other in about 2 years, it was wild to me how many times I could overhear their conversation steering to intimacy. They could be talking about books, movies, or real-world people, and once they got tired of the conversations that actually had value, one of them would mention how hot someone was, or their body. It was maddening to be around. I don't think I'm the finest man on the planet. I'd give myself a 7. So hearing that over and over just doesn't feel good. Besides how vulgar it can get. Maybe I'm a prude. I don't care. But you don't want to have an idea of what your wife would choose to do with a famous guy if you gave her a chance. I work a construction job and I'm saving to start a business. So I tend to work as many hours as I can. Addison is fine with that because it is all meant to be for our future. So me sacrificing extra hours here and there isn't meant to be a bother. On one of the last days that my sister was around, I walked into the house after work and it was clear that they had been talking about something that I wasn't supposed to hear. I caught about 1 second of hushed voices before they went silent. And then when they saw me, they started acting all weird. I noticed that they had both been drinking wine, so it felt like they might have been up to no good. But I eventually let it slide out of my mind when I started dealing with other things that night. Looking back, I know that night was relevant, because when my sister eventually left, there was a day when Addison and I were watching TV and I saw a notification pop up on her phone. She didn't hide it from me immediately because it seemed she had to read it first. But by the time she had read the preview of the message, she quickly flipped her phone over. The thing is, I had already read it. It was from my sister, and if I recall correctly, it basically said, "Hey Addison, I'm glad to hear you took my advice. I'm sure you feel so much." And that was it. I had no idea what kind of advice my sister had given my wife, especially because she hadn't told me anything about it. So, as casually as I could, I asked her what my sister wanted, because I wanted to see what she would choose to tell me. She stumbled over her words a bit before she said they had a talk about starting the day with positive affirmations, and she had started doing that. I couldn't tell if she was lying or not, but it didn't sound like the kind of thing my sister engaged in, so I was skeptical. I didn't say more than that because I genuinely had no reason to be as suspicious as I felt. Again, I know that my sister and my wife were close, but with recent developments with Addison, it just felt like the two of them being too close was not going to lead to anything good. I even started to worry that my sister might have been trying to get with my wife, and then I started to worry that it might have already happened during the time she was around. That night, I decided to put myself to rest and look through my wife's phone. I've done it only twice before in the entire time that we've known each other, and one of those times was before I proposed to her. But this time, I just had a gut feeling that my sister might have been trying to make moves on my wife, because as much as they were gushing over men, my sister swings the other way, and I know that for a fact. With how much Addison had been wanting to get into something with an extra person, I felt like her having been around my sister for that long might have made her curious. None of this was even a slight worry when I let my sister stay over, but it was only after that I started to overthink it. The worst part is that after opening the phone, I didn't even have to do too much to find what I was afraid I'd find. The only thing was that I couldn't have predicted the exact form it was going to take. My wife hadn't been intimate with my sister in any way, at least as much as I could get from the messages they had. Instead, what I gleaned is that my sister and my wife had had a conversation about our own intimate life, which pissed me off because the last person that I want to know about those kinds of things is my sister. During that conversation, Addison had mentioned how I felt stale because we had been together for a ridiculously long time. She didn't get to explore other guys in college because she chose to be faithful, and even in high school, she was too religious to put herself into positions where she'd be able to make out with people. According to her, she hated that she had missed the opportunity to be exploratory in that department. She admitted it was why she always was trying to introduce a new player to our bedroom encounters. My sister chimed in and rightfully told her that proposing a threesome with another guy was a silly move. Instead, she advised her to get another girl because that would make me more likely to say yes. And if he becomes a friend, you can guilt him into giving you an MFM. It was very annoying how casually they were talking about what should have been very private. But if you don't want a threesome, you can always just do your own thing. It's not hard to keep it private. After that, the messages pretty much died down until several days later, and looking at the timestamp, I assumed my wife had returned from work, so they spoke in person. That wasn't even the same day when I walked in on them, so I have no idea exactly how many private conversations they had. Ultimately, it was clear that my sister didn't want to be on record telling my wife to cheat, but she has always been extremely liberal, so she tried her best to say it without saying it, but it was also clear. My sister was encouraging my wife to cheat on me solely because she didn't get the action she wanted when she was younger. Despite trying as many things as we could find, it seemed it wasn't enough. It wasn't about the action in the bedroom, but simply because I had fallen out of her favor. The real problem was that the message I had seen was my sister saying she was glad that my wife had taken my advice and had done something. But all it took was her saying, "I did it," with a bunch of stupid emojis for my sister to get the idea. That was when she sent the message. My wife agreed that she felt great after cheating on me. She wasn't trying to connect the act to me, but by the tone of her texts. Instead, she was trying to make it seem like it was something she did herself, like it was some kind of power move that wasn't hurting anyone. But my goodness, I am hurt worse than I've ever been. It doesn't end there though, because I didn't even try to come up with some kind of plan myself. Instead, I simply confronted her the next morning. I didn't have it in me to try and craft some elaborate revenge. I just needed to understand why she had done it. So I joined her where she was about to start up on breakfast, and I asked her why she had cheated on me. She looked genuinely shocked, so if she had denied it with her whole heart, I might have actually fallen for it. But she just kept shaking her head. I told her that I didn't want her to lie to me because I knew the truth already. I started to say that I only discovered from the messages, and she was getting progressively more unsettled. After I offloaded everything I knew onto her, I asked her why she had to cheat on me so badly. I told her that I wanted an answer, and that no matter how much silence she tried to opt for, I was going to make sure she told me the truth. I didn't tell her exactly where I had gotten the truth from, and I assumed she had thought it was my sister. "She's lying," was the first thing she said. I asked her who she was talking about, and she said she was referring to my sister. At that point I got mad and I couldn't keep up the act. I told her that my sister hadn't told me, that it was her own chats that had. I told her I knew about all of it. I mentioned the word stale, and that shook her real bad because she realized I wasn't bluffing. As angry as I was, part of me just wanted to answer from her. We had known each other for way too long for me to just toss her to the side. I wanted to hear what she had to say, because a part of me hoped it was going to make sense, and I'd choose to take things back to the way they were. But she wasn't telling me anything useful. As I kept bearing down on her, she eventually just started crying. It didn't stop me. Since she wasn't going to talk, I just started pressing her. I told her that she had cheated on me because I was boring and she wished she had been more of a whore during her school days. I told her that I had been there doing everything for her as a husband, and she was busy feeling sad over men she didn't know but wished she had had the chance to sleep with. I told her that she was selfish and that she didn't consider me for a second in all of it, despite how many compromises I tried to make for her. At a point, her crying and refusal to say anything just made me snap. I told her to get out of the house and to not come back. She had never seen me angry before, so I knew I wasn't going to help her say anything. Instead, it just made her lock up further. But looking back, even though it pissed me off then, the good thing is that she got up, while still crying, and went to go pack some things. I hated how easily she chose to do that, but I'm glad she did because I'm not exactly looking to have a cheating wife fight to stay in the house for as long as possible. She hasn't returned to the house since then, besides one day when she had to pick up some clothes, and even then, she still didn't choose to have a discussion with me. The way she has been dodging accountability on the issue has been my biggest annoyance. She absolutely refuses to acknowledge any of it. And of course, I didn't leave my sister out of it. I called her up a few hours after Addison left, and then I just started blasting her for being so stupid as to encourage my wife to cheat on me. I told her that everything had fallen apart, and I knew the role that she played in the whole thing. She was silent for a long time, but all she said at the end was that it had been a very selfish move from her, and that she was very sorry. She sounded sorry, if I had to be honest, but it was too mild an apology for ruining my marriage. Because I knew that I was done. Despite our rich history, I knew that the journey would have to have an end at that point. The current update is that we've started up the divorce proceedings, and my hope is to get absolutely everything I own and leave her with her own stuff. I don't want to be long and distressful, but I also don't want to leave her with anything more than she deserves. I just felt that I should share my story here because it has changed the trajectory of my life, and it shows you shouldn't trust anyone because I had two people who I trusted betray me, and now things will never be the same, and it has nothing to do with my own actions. Update. I posted here a few weeks ago about my wife who had cheated on me because my sister had encouraged her to. It had nothing to do with me because I wasn't being a neglectful husband in any way. After diving into the situation, my sister's liberal beliefs were the reason why she felt that my wife should put her pleasure first. She allowed her own beliefs to play too large a role in my marriage, and my stupid ex-wife, who had likely wanted to cheat all along, finally had someone egging her on. The only thing is that she didn't get away with it because I saw her messages that pointed to what was going on. Anyway, I'm here to say that the divorce has been finalized, and I'm glad about that. It was a rough process, but fortunately there's good news. At the end of the day, I don't have to pay any alimony, and the split of the funds in our joint account was pretty much down the middle, since our income is mostly the same. However, with my evidence of her cheating, I was favored in regards to the house, and that was a massive win for me. It wasn't enough for me though. I wanted to hurt her more than she hurt me, and while I knew that might not have been entirely possible, I did my best to get some payback of my own. I compiled all the most relevant aspects of the messages I had copied from her phone and told every single person that meant something to her about what she had done. As much as I knew that she wasn't that religious anymore, her parents and a lot of her family thought she was still a good Christian girl. I was prepared to destroy that image. The best part is that I sort of succeeded. Within a few minutes, I was getting replies and even calls from people. Some of them were angry and said that I should have dealt with that kind of thing privately, but most of them were sympathetic and couldn't believe she had done that. I extended that to a few of her coworkers whose numbers I had, because I knew that workplace gossip was going to propagate itself. She called me about an hour after, and she wasn't even screaming. She was sniffling a lot and just asked me why I had done that, especially after we were officially split. I didn't say anything to that. Instead, I chose to say as little as she said when I confronted her about her cheating. Eventually, she hung up on me, and it felt good. And I didn't leave my sister out of it either. I gave her the exact same treatment by telling essentially every relative that I could to find about the part she played in my divorce. Considering she was the black sheep, that didn't help. She had mellowed out just a little in most people's eyes. Maybe they had gotten used to her over the years, but I took the opportunity to reverse all of that progress and show them how horrible a person she was. She didn't even bother to call me. She just sent a text and said, "F you." That was it. It kind of made me happy. The best part of my sister's case is that she travels a lot, and I've helped her financially more than anyone else in the family, solely because I'm the most capable. The good thing is that the lifeline is gone, and she'll need to figure things out on her own from here. I actually want nothing to do with her for the rest of my life. Up to now, Addison hasn't chosen to explain her side of the story, probably because it won't help at all. I'm starting to care less and less, though, with each week that goes by, and I hope there's a day when I won't care about any of this at all. Now that I think about it, I'll block her entirely. There's really no reason why we need to stay in contact anymore, and if things start getting hard for her, then I certainly don't want to be one of her options. It's hard losing someone who you thought you were going to be with for the rest of your life, but life isn't fair, and I've been shown that in 4K. I'll move on with my life and make the most of it. How do you even begin to wrap your head around that kind of double backstab? You really tried. You compromised, you were open, you communicated. Hell, you even entertained some of her freakier ideas just to keep the spark alive. And somehow, you ended up being the boring one? Make that make sense. Your sister waltzed in, spent a fine wine-soaked evening chatting about threesomes and missed college flings, and suddenly your marriage is gone. At the end of the day, none of this is on you. You were solid. She wanted to relive a wild phase she never had and use your marriage as the testing ground. What do you make of this? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. And thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.